Hi, and welcome back to the Adored Woman podcast. I'm your host, Naomie Thompson. Today, I have a really special guest. I have my ex-client, Anne McHale. We worked together from when Anne was single, and I took her through the whole dating process until she met the man who would later become her husband. Anne is a master of wine, and she runs an online coaching business for professionals in the wine industry. So welcome, Anne. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you, Naomi, and it's so lovely to see you again. Thanks for inviting me on.
My pleasure. It's great to have you. So take me back to when we first started working together. What did love and romance and all of that look like for you?
So we started working together at the end of 2018. I had been single for about 2.5 years. I'd been very committed to the dating process. I'd had lovely profile pictures done. I was going on dates. I'd signed up for group coaching programs, and I sort of knew all the theory and I knew, what I should be doing. And I was going on lots of dates, but I just kept getting trapped in this same cycle where usually I'd be on 1, 2, or 3 dates with a person, and then I just never thought they were good enough. I just didn't feel it, and I just kept ending it. And I was just kind of stuck in that cycle, 3 dates max before I would, say goodbye to the person. And I just thought, I'm never going to meet anybody. So I contacted you because I needed some one-to-one accountability.
Yeah. I do remember you saying you'd tried so many courses, programs, but actually it took one-to-one to finally start putting all of that theory into practice.
Yeah, definitely. The other programs that I was in were brilliant. They taught me loads of useful stuff, but it just stayed as theory. And I think I even wrote to you when I first contacted you that, I've hired a personal trainer to make sure that I show up at the gym. So this really shouldn't be any different. I will be able to make progress if I have somebody that's holding me accountable to implementing the teaching.
Yes, absolutely. So why do you think all of those other trainings and courses and books and group programs didn't work?
It was just really that. It was just not practicing what I was being taught. So loads of great advice I learned about being really present and mindful on dates, but then I would go on the date and then I would just do the same thing that I'd always done, kind of sit there and silently judge the person and think about whether or not they would be which is what you always told me not to do, is like go in with this open, curious mind. Don't go in kind of already sort of deciding, is this going to be my future husband or not? And but I kept doing that because there was nobody kind of checking in with me and holding me accountable. So that was definitely one of the major shifts.
Yeah, you definitely came in like ready to go. You were really ready to try different things. And something that really stood out about you is that you were brave. You were willing to take on the coaching, even if it didn't always feel comfortable, even if it was stretching you out of your comfort zone. And that, to me, when I see people come to me with that attitude, they get what they want. And what was the first thing then that started to change once we started working together, once you were trying out and putting into practice everything you were learning from me and that you'd learned in the past? What started to change?
There were so many things, but you really helped me increase my confidence, that I could kind of set my standards for the dates. So I was very much into the habit of kind of trying to make things a bit easier for the guy all the time, So when you said to me, you're more likely to keep this going on if you make it as easy as possible on yourself. And so together, you and I created a system where, let's say I'd agreed to meet the guy on a Wednesday. If I was working at home that day, because I run my own business, so I often was working at home, then I would say to him, I'll be free in this area at this time. Or if I was working, I live in London, and sometimes I was working with a client in central London. So if that was the case on the day of the date, then I would say to the guy, I'll be in this location. And we would, on the first date, we agreed that I'd only give him, 60 to 90 minutes of my time, just also so that he didn't waste his time either if it wasn't going to work out. It was just more of a kind of an initial connection to see if we wanted to go on another date. And even if it did go really well, I would still have to cut it off at the 60 minutes, leave him wanting more. So that really changed a lot for me because it meant that I was able to do my kind of 2 to 3 dates a week that I had in my calendar with relative ease. So the work was for the guy to do. It was up to him to come to wherever I was. And because I only had to give him 60 minutes of my time, it wasn't, a huge commitment. I could still go and meet a friend for dinner afterwards. I wasn't cutting out the rest of my social life. And it just made it so much more manageable. And then I was able to go on more dates as well. I just started to feel better about myself because the fact that the guys did show up like this made me realize that I was worth showing up for. So many things came together, but that was one of the key ones.
Yes, I love that. It's so easy for us to worry about the effort that a man has to put in, so we end up compensating for that effort. And you're right, once I remember that, and once you got that, and I remember thinking, you were like, "Oh my gosh, can I have the audacity? Can I expect a man to come to my area of London?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." Men do they fall in love when they're giving, not when they're receiving. Like, they'll enjoy receiving, but it's when they're giving and making a difference for a woman. And also, you get to see who a man is. If a man is very minimal effort, you're going to see that from just setting that standard for yourself and saying, "I'd feel more comfortable meeting locally to me." And he says, "Well, that's not great. I'm not going to do that if you won't meet me halfway." I mean, you then get the experience of who he is and how he shows
That
up.
happened. I actually remember texting you one Saturday because um, I was supposed to meet this guy and he suggested that we meet somewhere way towards his end of town. I lived in northeast London. He was in southwest or southeast. I can't remember. And he wanted me to meet towards him. And I said, please, can we meet more centrally? He suggested somewhere else. And I said, please, can we meet, on my tube line? And he just said, this is all starting to sound a bit too difficult. I don't think I can do this. And I texted you and was like, oh, this is so upsetting. I've upset this guy. And you were kind of like, he's showing his true colors now. You have saved yourself time. And it was so true.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And this isn't about sitting and being an entitled princess thinking the whole world must revolve around me and the whole world must come to me. I was having you focus on the relationship you wanted. Focus on that as the important thing, like prioritize that rather than prioritize this individual man. Because I remember when dating, there were men who would take the afternoon off work to drive and come and meet me for a coffee. And that's what happened. And also men often enjoy that effort, or a really great masculine man who's really partnership material. And again, it's not about just spending your life as a princess, letting him do everything for you. But I would say you get to see, is a man's energy able to flow towards you, or is he going to be waiting for the world to come towards him? And the
Yeah.
men who want all your energy towards him really make troublesome partners long term. So yes, exactly. And I love that you were willing to try that. And that was going to be my next question, was what belief about yourself or men did you have to let go of to move forward? And my guess would be that would be one of them.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's just it was a whole series of little adjustments that I just kept making along the way to gradually, grow into this more confident version of myself that believed I was worthy of being treated amazingly and, as you say, the energy flowing towards me.
Yeah, tell me more about that, about how your relationship with yourself changed throughout this process.
So I think we were in touch in late 2018, and earlier that year I'd had some lovely photographs done, which showed me off to the best of my ability on the online profiles. And so I'd started to see kind of like a higher caliber of man, um, but which definitely helped my confidence. But then I was always afraid, that I would arrive on the date and they would say, "Oh God, you don't look like your photographs." But as I kept going on the dates, I started to realize that that didn't become an issue. They did think I looked like the photographs. And then as I became more confident in stating my desires, where I would like to meet, how long I would like to meet for, the confidence just gradually grew from there. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. That's great, great, great. So what did you notice as you were kind of raising your standards, as you were speaking up for your needs and your comfort and ease and feeling of safety when you were dating. What did you notice about the kind of men that started showing up?
It was funny because I'd always been told, by all the coaches that I'd followed that once you did this work, that better men would show up. And I just thought that sounds so woo woo and bizarre. How can that happen? But it was true. People who were a little bit more physically attractive to me started to show up. People who were more willing to just take over the reins of planning beautiful dates showed up. Yeah, that was probably the key thing, Still, it was a while. It was probably 1 year after you and I started working together that I finally met the man who would become my husband, but there was just this gradual evolution. And I think even by the January after we started to work together, so 3 months later, I was getting to the stage where I was getting to 5th, 6th, even 7th dates with people, which had just never happened before. So yeah, a really gradual evolution, but definite progress.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember. I know that I would have said, right, I want you to date all different guys, even guys that you're not instantly attracted to on the apps.
I think I'd always been, open-ish to going on dates with guys that I didn't necessarily think were really hunky or whatever, because I know from past experience that that attraction can grow. But I probably was a bit too quick to dismiss these people after 1 or 2 dates, and that's what you really helped me with. Um, so unless there was something really bad about the person, you encouraged me to give each person three three dates
Mm.
and to practice these tools of curiosity about the person, practice the active listening tool, really think about, what I'm learning from this person. Perhaps they had an interesting job and I didn't know anything about that world. And so it was kind of like get away from that idea of like immediately dismissing a person as soon as you walk into the room and see them or as soon as they start talking, and just being completely curious about them. So yeah, but I probably did find it hard to keep going back on the second or third date if I wasn't attracted to them, but you encouraged me to keep doing that. And another thing actually that you really helped me with, and this might resonate with the women listening, is that when I did need to tell a guy that I didn't want to see him again, I'm a highly empathetic and sensitive person myself. And I would, put myself into the shoes of this person who liked me and who wanted to see me again and who'd perhaps spent some money on the dates. And I would feel all this guilt, like rejecting this lovely person. It's not his fault. And he's been so kind to me. And I would torture myself over it and I would delay sending the text. And you would help me compose a kind message to send the guy and then encouraged me to realize that, he was an adult and he was able to take responsibility for his own rejection. And that if we don't put ourselves out there for rejection in the dating game, no one's going to get anywhere. So that really helped me deal with those emotions because I would never have kept going on dates with people if I hadn't had a way of dealing with how to reject them, if you see what I mean. And I wouldn't have learned what I learned and taken the time to become curious. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was exactly the same. I needed that. And that's it. We don't have to be responsible for a man's feelings. All we need to do, in my opinion, is show up as honest, kind, and clear. And how did men respond to that?
I think they really appreciated it because, there's so much ghosting in the dating world these days. And it's usually probably, it's the person who sends the next text to ask the person out that risks being ghosted. And it's often the man who's the one doing that. And so I think that had probably happened to a lot of men that they would send the text after the second or third date saying, I'd love to see you again. And then the woman would go silent. So I think they really appreciated me just being completely honest. And I usually got, I got some sad responses, but usually positive responses. Like, I really appreciate you taking the time to send a message and wishing you all the best with finding someone, etc. So it was good.
Yeah, and exactly. And it's also humbling ourselves. It's knowing, yeah, we're great. And I think it's good to kind of big up yourself and see your positive qualities and see that maybe this man saw some of those. But also the truth is, a man who's just met us once or twice, we're not going to ruin their life.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we're lovely humans, but we don't have that power. He'll be
Yeah.
disappointed temporarily, but then he'll move on and he'll completely forget all about us. And it's just remembering that, and I do remember us having those conversations. So now tell me about when you met your husband and, what was different about how you approached that connection with him?
So when I met him, I had just come from a sort of phase of a few months where I'd just been starting to have real fun with it. I was being taken out to gorgeous places by men in this totally relaxed way where I was just sort of loving the vibes of, all these guys courting me. So I came into the date with him just as, oh, I'm going on another date. Like there was no expectation. In fact, the date nearly didn't happen because he misunderstood. I think we had one of those vetting phone calls where he'd never encountered this before. I think we met on Hinge, and I had said, "Oh, I'm going to be away a lot over the next couple of weeks, but do you fancy a phone call?" And he was like, "Oh, it's new." So we had a phone call, and then at the end of the phone call, he somehow got the idea that I was going to be the one to reach out and make the date happen, but I never did that. So I was kind of just went off and kind of almost forgot about him, and then something in him made him go, maybe I got that wrong. I'll just reach out and see if she's free. And so we did end up going on the date. And it was the usual thing where he came to me. We went to this pub around the corner from my house where I had been on about, I don't know, 17 other first dates because that was the most convenient place for me. Yeah, the staff were kind of almost at the stage of recognizing me. So we went in and I'd allocated him 60 minutes. He likes to tell people that I stretched it to 90 minutes because I liked him so much. But it's true, we did go to 90 minutes before I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I've got to leave." It was just such a relaxed experience. I was just fully present. Another one of the things I think you had taught me was to compliment men as well. So men are usually quite good. If they've been dating for a while, they know that women like compliments. So they're quite good at complimenting your outfit or something about you, but they're not used to women doing it back. So that's one of my vivid memories from our first date is that he said something about, that I had beautiful eyes or something. And then I took him completely aback when I said that I'd been admiring his handsome eyes as well. He was like struck dumb. So, it was just very relaxed. I remember at one point, and he actually told this story in his wedding speech, that he went to the toilet and he said, normally when you come back from the toilet, the person you're on the date with is scrolling their phone. But I was in full mindful present mode. So my phone was in my bag and I was just sort of looking at the candle flickering on the table and just being completely present. And he said that that really struck him. I mean, I heard all of this, months later, right? He didn't say any of this at the time. So the 90 minutes was up and he walked me back to my front door. And I remember just going in and thinking, well, that was just a delightful, relaxed, easy date. It was just so enjoyable, but I still didn't have any expectations. I still wasn't thinking, is this the future husband or anything? Because I was in this mode of being present. And then as soon as he got home that night, he texted me and said, I really want to see you again. And from then on, he was just kind of regularly planning dates and regularly being in touch. I was dating a couple of other people at the time, of course, as per your teachings of circular dating. So I wasn't too invested in the outcome. Maybe as time progressed, I started to get a bit more attached to him, but I still had the other dates to keep me grounded. Yeah.
So that's so lovely to hear all of that. So what was the difference between the Anne that was on that date with him and the Anne that started dating? Like, what did you need to learn to be able to be there on that date in the way you were and to be able to um, to receive that relationship as it progressed?
That increased confidence in myself, the knowledge that a man would be willing to travel to me. Very importantly, this presence, this curiosity, this do not immediately come in and think, is this my future husband? Like anytime that thought creeps in, bring yourself back to the moment, touching the table, touching the glass of the drink that you have, listening to what he's saying, picturing in your mind the images of the stories that he is telling you, just being just so open like that and not, is this going to be the guy, which gives this kind of tense energy. And I wouldn't have been able to get to that place if I hadn't been going on tons and tons and tons of previous dates that weren't the right person so that I could practice these skills. And I know that's what you teach. It's kind of like dating is therapy. And you have to be willing to put in some time to practice these skills. Not to say that it takes everybody a year to get there. You know, some people, if they practice it well, can meet somebody quite quickly.
Yeah.
But for me, just I had to unlearn a lot of bad habits of analyzing and judging and just being my natural self with a person and complimenting him back, I think definitely helped as well. I would never have had the confidence to do that before. So,
Yeah, we can
yeah,
kind of hold these good feelings about someone inside of us, but actually it's almost
yeah,
like a little gift that's all nicely wrapped, but we just haven't handed it over yet. You mentioned about dating being therapy. Dating can be very therapeutic in this, can't it? In the sense of you get to learn in the presence of a man your triggers, your old patterns, who you would normally be drawn to, how vulnerable and exposed you feel actually with someone who can give you the relationship you want. And sometimes that can feel scary. And also you get to practice, and as you did, all of your tools in the presence of all different men and being in the presence of men you might not normally date. When we get to, as I did after my divorce, as you did as you were dating, you get to a certain point in your life and you haven't naturally attracted your husband in your 20s, early 30s. And then it's quite humbling to say, actually, maybe I don't know my type. And the
mm,
whole idea of rotational dating is you're like, okay, I'm curious. I've always gone for this type of guy, but maybe they're not my type. So I need to then just date all different guys to unlearn that old habit and relearn how to be turned on to the kind of guy who actually can give you the feelings that you were talking about, which was just feeling relaxed, delighted, easy, because those are the feelings we get. And often we overlook those feelings because we're thinking, I've got butterflies and I'm really excited, because they seem the feelings that we're more kind of addicted to and enjoy more. So about the whole idea of rotational dating, so many women resist it, and I understand. So tell me about that. Did you resist it at first when I first brought that idea to you? Because I know you embraced it in the end, but just tell me a little bit about that.
it's definitely another example of where I had to get out of my comfort zone. When I first came to you, it kind of wasn't an issue because all the dates were ending after date 2 or 3 anyway. And it's quite unlikely that you would become exclusive with someone after date 2 or 3. So it never was tested, right? Until later in the process. And then it began to be tested when I got to sort of date 5, 6, 7 with someone. And then they kind of all seemed to make this assumption that because we'd reached that number of dates that I must be off the apps because they were off the apps. And when it would come up, then I would have to come out of my comfort zone and say, no, I'm still on the apps and I'm staying on the apps. And that was, some guys really do not like that, especially if they've been putting a lot of effort in and taking you out. And even my husband didn't like it. And there was one weekend, I think, after I had stated that I was still on the apps, where he went away for a long weekend and I didn't hear from him. And it was very scary because I remember actually feeling quite annoyed, like, he's been giving me all this attention and I'm like this amazing woman and I don't hear from him. And I then found out that, he'd sort of had a flirtation with someone else that weekend. He told me this, again, when we were exclusive months later. And I thought, well, I suppose that's fair enough, because I was still on the apps. But because I did have other people in my rotation and other people texting me, I was able to just ride that out, just wait until the next time I saw him and just remember that I had options, because it's this whole getting laser focused on one man is the trap that so many women fall into all the time. And then, he may end up not being the guy who treats us well. Although you have to get out of your comfort zone, and although it isn't kind of the socially acceptable thing to do, because when you say to people that you're dating 3 guys, they all assume that you're sleeping with the 3 guys for some reason. I don't know why people make that assumption. And even the guys will say, will kind of make that assumption, which is strange, but because you could just be going on coffee dates with people. But yeah, once you get out of your comfort zone, it helps you take that laser focus off this one person that you like the most and just stay in this relaxed mode, knowing that, the right person's going to come to you.
Yeah. And to me, I see it like you're filling your dance card. And sometimes I'd say most often a guy, when you've had that conversation with him, does need some kind of explanation because his mind will go to, oh my God, she's just going to sleep with different people. And he's naturally not going to want to date someone who's sleeping with other people. Maybe some guys will actually. I have spoken to some women and guys are willing to wait and they're willing to do that. But most guys aren't. But it's like filling your dance card. And actually, when a guy has it explained to him, I have a habit of jumping into the wrong relationships again and again. And the next relationship I commit to is the one like I'm in forever. Like when I'm in, I'm there and I'm in forever. And that's what I'm after. So until I know that that relationship is really growing with somebody, or I'm with someone who really wants that with me and I really want that with them, I'm going to keep my options open. And the whole idea of filling your dance card, that's all I'm doing. I'm meeting people. Because otherwise I get anxious and I get needy and I just want the relationship to suddenly be more than it is. And I think when guys hear any of that, whatever's like true for you, they get it. I remember guys saying to me, he said, I don't like it, but it makes sense. It's logical. And another guy said, it makes me want to work harder.
Nice.
Yeah. And again, it's not about playing hard to get, is it, Anne? And with you, I know it wasn't about playing hard to get, but it's also about, in many ways, being hard to get. Not to raise yourself and elevate yourself above any man, but just you're looking for a really good, solid, commitment-minded man who is there for the long term and that you feel great with each other and you've got that real intention to be together for the rest of your lives. And also, not every woman at every point in dating has to rotational date lots of different guys. I think it's a matter of, isn't it, of getting to know yourself. And if you know that you get quite anxious sometimes with dating, that you will kind of future trip with the guy and create that relationship before it's happened or get really preoccupied with him, then rotational dating is just incredible to keep you sane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
And I really remember that. So, and maybe you've answered this question about how did you handle the uncertainty and vulnerability of early dating with him? But as you said, with that weekend, you dated other guys, so you weren't left with that kind of gap, thinking, where is he? Did you have anything else you wanted to share about that?
No, I think that's it. I think it was the rotational dating, and it's the first time I was really tested with it, because up until then I hadn't really been as into somebody. So it definitely was a test, but had that structure to fall back on. Okay. I feel upset that he's not texting me this weekend, and I don't know why, but I'm not going to chase him. I'm going to just focus on, the other guys that I'm texting, maybe go on a coffee date and just to stay grounded. So it was really helpful for that.
Yeah, and something really shifted in you, and you highlighted that when you said when you were on the date with your now husband, he'd gone to the loo, came back, and you were just sat being present. And we will have spoken a lot about feminine energy, masculine energy tools to have you be more in your feminine energy. And that is just literally being present with the feelings you have in that moment. Like, I feel nervous, so I'm just going to feel it rather than just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and fill every gap and then leave the date exhausted. And you really did that. And when you shared that, I just thought, gosh, that is so rare that someone will sit and be present with the room and not kind of just numb out the awkwardness by scrolling. Fabulous. So just tell me about where you are now. So I know you're married, saw your beautiful photos of your wedding. So just paint us a picture of the relationship you have today.
So we got married in May 2022. In about 6 weeks, we'll be celebrating our fourth wedding anniversary. Yeah, we're really happy. I bought him a card for our anniversary. Marriage is a walk in the park, Jurassic Park. Because
That's great.
getting intimate with somebody is like a whole other level from the dating part. So it has been a huge learning experience. And I think because both of us had been single, independent people in our late 30s for a long time when we met, suddenly we're like moving in together and, I want it my way. No, I want it my way. And so there was a huge work of compromise to do. But the wonderful thing about him is that he's so open to talking and growing and working on things, and I am as well. And so we've kind of ironed out all those little niggles from when we first moved in together and first got married. And yeah, we just know each other really well, and we're just sort of really appreciative of each other all the time. We both know each other's strengths in the relationship, and, life circumstances come along. So there are bumps in the road, but we're like so supportive of each other through all of that. And, we just laugh hilariously together all the time at ridiculous things. I think that's a hugely important part of a long term relationship as well. We get on really well with each other's families. We're just really happy, but in a kind of non flashy way, just
Yeah.
nice way. It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, it's finding someone who is as imperfect as we are, but actually, if you've got the fundamentals there, the fundamentals, what you said, you communicate well with each other. So then everything's talk aboutable. If you can talk about everything, then you can get through everything. If you can laugh at yourselves and, life together, emotional, intelligent people are walking green flags for great relationships. I have some women say to me, "Oh, I really want a really spiritual guy, or I want a guy who's done lots of personal development." And I say, well, some guys don't need to do tons of personal development. Actually, they've grown up quite secure and they know how to have a great relationship. They just need to be open and willing to grow with you and willing to communicate and able to sit in the difficult conversations and not run away and not fight you. And actually, when you find that, that's great. And there are always things, aren't there, that aren't perfect, but it's can we talk about it and can we get through these things together?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things we've discovered is that if we turn our mutual infuriating qualities into a joke, then everything just becomes lighter. So even the thing that annoys you the most about the person, you make it into a joke. It becomes an in joke, and then it just removes all the negativity attached to it. So I think we've done a good job at that, and we tease each other lightheartedly all the time about our respective flaws. So yeah, it's good fun.
Yeah, that's brilliant. What do you think would have happened if you would have gone it alone in the whole dating process?
I probably would have continued to collect theories, knowledge about what I was doing wrong and what I should be doing, because I'm very good at that. I'm an academic person. I like to collect knowledge and systems in my brain, but I wouldn't have implemented it
Yeah.
because it was having that support to do the hard things. Send the text back to the guy who wants, you go and meet near him and make you travel for an hour to get there. Send the text to him and just sort of state that you don't want to do that. I don't think I would ever have been brave enough to do that on my own. Also, continuing to go out on these dates with people, even if I didn't find them attractive immediately. I think your support in that really helped because I was able to then use that time to practice all the skills, get curious, practice being present, all of that stuff. So I just wouldn't have persisted with it, I think, in the same way without your support.
Yes, I can really see that because I experienced that in my own life. As I was coaching you and many other people, I was getting coaching and going through the dating process myself. So I know that one where you have someone keeping you accountable because they keep you going. When you want to just give up, it's like, come on, girl. As coaches, and I'm sure you know this as a coach, we hold the vision for what our clients really want. And we hold the vision even when our clients have lost sight of that and are feeling hopeless and like it's not going to happen for them. Having someone who's got your back, they are holding that vision for you. And I think that's really important for us to have that. And even if it isn't a coach, sometimes it is that good friend who just keeps you going, someone who can hold the vision, because sometimes it's hard for us to do that. So what would you say is the biggest thing you know about love now that you didn't know before, or about relationships?
Well, definitely this thing about accepting the person's flaws has been a big one for me because when I started working with you, I finally did start doing a bit more journaling and imagining what a day would be like with my ideal husband. It was kind of this list of ideal qualities. And I thought, oh, everything's going to be so good when I meet the right person. It's just going to be so easy. And what I didn't bargain for was my own tendency to focus on the negative. I do have a strong negativity bias. And so I really had to unlearn that in the relationship and see that, certain traits of his that were annoying really were peripheral. It just didn't matter. I had to focus on what was good, and what was good was that he deeply cared about me, deeply cared about my happiness, just was always going to be there for me emotionally. And as soon as I trained myself to start focusing on those aspects over and over again, the mild irritation at the other things just sort of mostly melted away. And then we just became much happier as a couple. So I think you can kind of theorize about that a lot. You can kind of know in theory that you have to accept somebody's flaws, but you have to.
Mm.
It's not so easy to do at the beginning, and but that has been transformative for me with deepening the intimacy in the relationship and deepening the trust and this feeling of safety and security. And so, yeah, that's probably the biggest thing I've learned about love.
That's wonderful. It's like when you both know you're both imperfect, but you're still there. You know that the other person is, they're not going anywhere and you're not going anywhere. Yeah, that creates such safety, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say to a woman who's like 35 plus? She's really wants what you have, which is that loving marriage, and she's disillusioned with the whole dating process and she's thinking maybe it's too late for me or it's not going to happen for me. What would you say to her?
Well, I am living proof that it can happen. So I was about to turn 39 when I met my husband. And I know of lots of people in the dating coaching world who've met people in their 40s and 50s and beyond, right? So there is loads of evidence out there that it can happen for you. So you need to focus on that. Going back to the negativity bias, I'm sure a lot of women listening are like me and they tend to focus on the negatives of any situation. So you've got to look at the positive evidence. And then you do have to be a bit strategic in today's very saturated dating world. And so many of the things that you taught me helped such a lot. Like, don't be getting trapped into this constant texting back and forward with a guy, after 3 interactions. I think you said to me, oh, I'm not really big into texting. That's what you should tell him. I'm not really big into texting. It would feel really good to meet. If he doesn't ask you out then, ditch him. And you can become more streamlined with the process as well as not giving up on the belief that it will happen. Make it life as easy for yourself as possible. So when the guy does ask you out, do what I did and state where you're going to be on that given day. Give him a short window just in case it doesn't go anywhere. You don't want to waste too much time. Make it as easy for yourself as possible so that you keep doing it, because you have to keep doing it, even though we all want to just like meet somebody straight away. But if you have inner work to do, then you're not going to get your ideal partner just by going on the first date that you find on Hinge or Bumble or whatever. So you need to be prepared to put in some effort and get out of your comfort zone. But honestly, I was one of the people that had been online dating for so long. I wish I'd kept count of how many first dates I went on. It would have been very funny to look back on it. But I went on so many first dates and I thought, this is never happening. I'm not going to be one of the people that this happens to.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. And then it did happen. So I promise you, it can happen.
Yeah.
But it's more likely to happen if you put in some effort and get some support like I did from
Yeah.
a wonderful person like Naomi.
Ah, thank you so much. If you could go back and tell yourself, the Anne who was struggling and just felt like it just wasn't happening, if you can go back and tell her one thing, what would it be?
It would be, it is going to happen for you. You're not the exception. There's no reason why a lovely man isn't going to come into your life. So just relax and enjoy the process.
That is so great. That's what we all needed to hear, didn't we? So just like one more question is, what impact has having this relationship had on the rest of your life? Like, what does it feel like one day to day, but also in the rest of your life, socially, family, even your work, where you live? How has it impacted and what difference has it made to all of those areas?
It's just brilliant. I just kind of living the life I always wanted to live, because we don't have kids and I never particularly wanted to have children. So that was never part of what I wanted to manifest. But I was 100% sure I wanted a husband, and a great husband, and a loving relationship. And I just wanted it so that I would always have a partner to do things with, to be there in the evenings, to chat to laugh with. And that is what I have. We have such a fun life together. We're able, because we got married and we're able to join our incomes together. We were able to buy an apartment with beautiful views over London, befriended each other's friends, and we get on really well with each other's families. We've just gone on incredible trips together. We both love travel. We both love hiking. There's just always just lovely experiences to enjoy together and to look forward to and never feel alone. You know, it's not that
Mm.
we do everything together. We still have our separate activities but it's just, yeah, I used to find Sundays very difficult when I was single because I would think, oh, everybody's with their family or with their partner and I'm alone. Now I'm one of the people that has somebody on a Sunday and I just love it.
Yeah, that's so gorgeous. That's just a perfect place to finish. And thank you so much. It's been so great speaking with you. And I am sure your words are going to give people a lot of hope. I know if I was single now back when I was and I was hearing you speaking, that would give me absolute hope to keep going. And also, I would love for you all to know where you can contact Anne because Anne is a master of wine. This is unusual. Until I met you, I didn't even know that that existed. So I am going to put details of how you can find out more about that from Anne. What do you offer, Anne? You have coaching programs, is that right?
Yeah, so my coaching is quite niche. I do support people already in the industry working towards their high level professional wine and spirit education trust exams. So probably most of your audience aren't going to be in that very narrow niche. But if anyone is a wine lover, on my Instagram stories, I do post, behind the scenes of what I'm drinking, where I'm traveling to, and so if you like kind of wine, lifestyle, fun stuff like that, you'll enjoy my Instagram, which is Anne McHale Wine. My main grid on Instagram is how to pass your exams. So watch the stories, might be more fun.
Well, yeah, I'll definitely link your Instagram because when I've seen your stories, sometimes that's kind of when I'm out looking at wine, I go, "Oh, Anne recommended that. I'll get that." So that's really useful. Anne, thank you so much. It's been so brilliant to speak with you, and yeah, I wish you a very, very long and happy marriage. And thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks, Naomi. It's been such a pleasure to chat with you again. And I love watching your work as well and how you've evolved. So very thrilled to be on your podcast. Thank you.
Wonderful. I'm so glad I was able to bring one of my clients in to speak with you because it's so easy to give up hope. It's so easy to see evidence out there that other people get this, but you can't. And it's also so easy to come to a conclusion that other people don't struggle with love and it seems to come easy for everyone else. But actually, that isn't true. As you heard from my conversation there with Anne, there was lots of struggle, but once she learnt a system and really committed to it, everything changed and it really did for her. So if you needed a sign to keep going, maybe this episode is that sign. And I want you to know that I believe in you. I 100% believe in you, that you can have the best relationship of your life. And that best can be glorious and blissful and loving. And you get to feel adored and safe knowing that your man has chosen you. And at the slightest hint of imperfection or troubles, he's not about to run for the hills, that he's choosing to be with you and he's there for the long term. He's not going anywhere. And not just that you get to be chosen, but you get to really choose a great relationship and not settle for anything less. Because let's face it, like you may see, just as I see relationships out there that make me realize that as women, we are better off single than being in an awful relationship. But it doesn't have to be like that. You can be in a wonderful relationship and you deserve it and you are just as deserving as anyone. So loads of love to you and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.